Rambam. We are concluding today the first part of the book of Avodah, of service. Hilchos Beis Bechira, the laws of the Holy Temple. Chapter number 8. There is a positive mitzvah to guard the temple. This mitzvah applies even though there is no fear of enemies or thieves, for guarding of the temple is an expression of respect for it. Right? So it's an expression of respect as opposed to fear of the enemy, right? That's important to appreciate. Okay, what's going on here? One moment. Let me just. All right, Diane. Let people in. Thank you. Okay. So a palace with guards is much more impressive than a palace without guards. Simple, right? That's respect. Okay. Halacha number 2. The mitzvah of guarding the temple applies throughout the night. The Kohanim and the Levites shall serve as guards, as the verse says, and you and your sons shall be before the tent of testimony. You shall keep watch over it. Also, it states that they, the Levites, shall watch over the tent of meeting. And it says, and Moshe, Aaron, and the sons shall camp before the sanctuary towards the east, and they will be guardians of the holy watch. Okay. Halacha number 3, anyone who nullifies the watch transgresses a negative commandment, as it says, and you shall take care to keep the holy watch. Any form of the verb shemar, take care, implies warning against transgressing a negative commandment. Even though it sounds like positive, like, do this, take care, right? With the implication, it's a negative commandment, warning against transgression, a negative commandment. Thus, guarding the temple fulfills a positive command, and nullifying its watch represents a violation of a negative command. So you have both sides of it. The mitzvah of guarding the temple is as follows. The Kohanim, the priests, stood guard from the inside and the Levites from the outside. 24 groups of guards stood watch over it continuously each night in 24 different places. The Kohanim stood guard in 3 places, while the Levites in 21 places. Where did they keep watch? The Kohanim kept watch in the chamber of Avitas. Hold on. The chamber of the spark and the chamber of the hearth. Second. Trying to find the picture. Here's Avitas over here in the picture. Here is the altar, the outer altar. So here's Avitas is one of the places the Kohanim would guard. The other place was I don't see it here. Dee, 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 dee. Okay. Here's another place on top over here. See, this is in here, over here. Base and it's is also over here somewhere. Okay. Where two structures built at the sides of the gates of the temple courtyard. The young Kohanim kept watch there. The chamber of earth was large, dome structure. Yeah, showed you over here. It was a dome structure surrounded on the inside with projections of stone. The elders of the Kohanim watch of that day slept there, with the keys to the temple courtyard in their hands. Okay. Remember, this is at night when the elders, they slept, the younger ones were watching. The Kohanim on the watch did not sleep in the priestly garments. Instead, they folded them. Oh, the Kohanim that did go to sleep, right, who were not watching guard, they would not go to sleep with their priestly garments on. They folded them at their heads and wore their own clothes when they slept. They slept on the ground. It was customary for all those who stand watch over the courtyards of the kings not to sleep on beds. Wow. You needed, like they say, a vacation from the vacation. Although this was no vacation because they had a lot of work there, right? Halacha number 7. If one of them had a seminal emission in his sleep, he would proceed down the winding underground stairwell. There was no prohibition involved because the underground passageway that opened to the portion of the temple outside the courtyard were not consecrated. So it wasn't, right? So here they slept over here. This is where they slept, right? This is the north side. This is where they slaughtered the animals. So over here they slept. So they went down here. This is, 2D, not 3D. So they went down inside here. On the outside over here wasn't consecrated. So then that's where their way out of the temple. Right. And then they would immerse themselves, and then he would return and sit among his fellow Kohanim until the gates were opened in the morning. So then, right, he would come, the gates would be opened over here. This is Shar Nicanor over here. The gates would be open. And this is where they come. I think it's that gate, or maybe it's, but you know what? We'll see, I think. Until the gates were open in the morning, at that time they would leave and proceed to their own affairs. Hmm? Why would they leave? I think because he only becomes pure at nighttime, so he shouldn't hang around, and then people wondering, you know, why he's uninvolved.
So when he was himself was already dead.
1 second, man. Yeah. So since if he had a seminal emission and he went to the mikveh, he only can do the service at nightfall, right? The day has to pass. So that day he went off and did his stuff instead of being there. He could be there, but he just couldn't do the service. But then that would be, why is he there? And, to save, I guess, grace. Huh?
I'm seeing a note here to purify himself, he must immerse his entire body in the vapor
Mhm.
and wait until the end of the day.
Right. Wait until the end of the day. That way he could continue to doing the service. Remember that, Kohanim had a watch from Shabbos to Shabbos, right? They had a whole week to be there to do their service. Oh, okay. So, there were still duties to be done. Where would the Levites stand watch? Inside the 5 gates of the Temple Mount. At its 4 corners, the wall surrounding the Temple Mount from inside. This is all Temple Mount, right? There's 4 corners, and there's different gates over here. Here's a gate, here's a gate, here's a gate, or an entrance. Several of them. Okay. At the outside 5 of the 7 gates of the temple courtyard, for the Kohanim stood watch in the remaining 2 gates, the chamber of the earth and the gate of the spark, in total 18 locations. Right, because there's also an entrance, and the Kohanim were here and here, right? They stood watch in the chamber of sacrifice, the chamber of Harayches, and behind the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies is over here. This is the western side, so they were over here, right? Um, so this is the gate of the Korban, and here's another gate. So the Levites were over here, some of their locations at least. Okay, total of 18. They also stood watch in the chamber of sacrifice. Okay, we said this, right? An overseer was appointed over all the watches of guards. He was called the officer of the Temple Mount, right? Ish Harabayas. Throughout the night, he checked on all the watches. Torches were lit before him. If the guard did not stand before him and greet him, peace unto you, right? In other words, he didn't say Shalom Alecha. It's interesting. It's a first person, not second person. I mean, plural first person, a second person. He would assume that he was sleeping and would strike him with a staff, right? You're not allowed to sleep. He was even granted permission to burn a sleeping guard's clothing. Thus it was commonly said in Jerusalem that the noise in the temple court at night, it must be the voice of a Levite being beaten, and his clothes burned because he slept on his watch. Whoa, that's tough, huh? Yeah, in the morning, shortly before dawn, the overseer of the sanctuary came and tapped to awake the Kohanim sleeping in the chamber of the earth. When they opened the gate for him, he took the keys and opened the small gate leading from the chamber of earth to the temple courtyard. Over here, I guess he went around like this or something. He had to come over here. And he entered the temple court, and priests followed him. There were 2 torches of fire in their hands and divided into 2 groups. One proceeded eastward, this way, and one went westward, this way. That's west, that's east, right? They walked in on checking the entire temple courtyard, because this is the whole courtyard is here. This is the women's courtyard, this is Israelite courtyard, and this is what we call the courtyard. I think that's only referring to for the Kohanim. They walked on checking the entire temple courtyard. Both groups met when they reached the chamber of bakers of Chavitim. When they both reached the point, they declared, "Peace unto you. Everything is a peace." Afterwards, they prompted the bakers of Chavitim to begin their work. Hold on. D, 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 D. Hmm. Where is it here? Beis HaChavitim, where they met by the baker's place. Ah, okay. Okay, here. This is where they met, right by the gate. Yeah, they kind of. So they went around like this, and they met over here, and then the baker would start baking. Right. Oh, the Kohen Gadol always brought each day a chavitim. Right. So he started. Okay. Last halacha. So this pattern was followed each night except on Shabbos Eve when they did not hold torches on their hands because it was Shabbos. Rather, they checked by the light on the candles which remained burning for the Shabbos Eve. Blessed be the merciful one who provides his assistance. Oh, let's just do a little, since it is, after all, the 9 days, and the Rebbe wants us to learn this specifically now more than ever. The laws of temple utensils are those that were served within. They contain 14 mitzvahs, 6 positive and 8 negative. To prepare the morning oil, not to prepare other oil that resembles it, not to anoint an unauthorized person with it, not to make incense according to the formula used for incense offering, not to burn anything on the golden altar aside from the incense offering, for the bearers to carry the ark on their shoulders, for the staves not the staves not to be removed from it, for the Levites to work in the sanctuary. And one individual should not carry out the task with which a colleague was charged in the sanctuary, to sanctify a priest for service, a kohen, that all the Kohanim's watches should have the same status during the pilgrimage festivals, to wear the priestly garments for service, for the cloak of the high priest not to be torn, for the breastplate of the high priest not to be moved from the ephod. All these mitzvahs explained in ensuing chapters. Number one, it's a positive command to prepare the anointing oil so that it'll be ready for use for those articles that required anointing, and they shall make it the oil of sacred anointment. Okay. Shh, amazing. Ah, all right. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? Please write in those from yesterday. All right. Thank you very much. Have an amazing, great